It really sounds like something straight out of a movie, doesn't it? The idea of bringing a creature back from extinction. But what if I told you we're not just talking about it anymore? We're on the brink of actually doing it.
So let's just ask the question head on. What if a creature that disappeared from our world 4,000 years ago was about to make a comeback? Not in a museum, not in a book, but alive, here, now.
To really get how huge this is, we've got to go back. We need to talk about the icon at the center of all this, the woolly mammoth. This animal wasn't just walking around during the Ice Age, it was an absolute powerhouse, shaping the very ground it walked on. Let's try to wrap our heads around this timeline. For almost 400,000 years, mammoths were a fixture on this planet. And then, poof, around 4,000 years ago, the last little group stuck on a remote island just disappeared. A chain of life that long just broken. 4,000 years. That is a long, long time for the world to be without one of its giants. 4,000 years of silence. You see, extinction was always meant to be forever, a one-way trip. Well, until now. So how in the world do you undo 4 millennia of extinction? It's not like you can just find one. No, you have to build one. And to do that, you have to go right to the source code of life itself. The magic trick here is a technology called CRISPR. The best way to think about it is like a word processor for DNA. You can literally search for a specific genetic sequence, and then you can cut, copy, paste, or just rewrite it. They call it molecular scissors, and it is completely changing the game. Okay, so here's the game plan. Step 1, you get your hands on some amazingly well-preserved mammoth DNA from the Arctic permafrost. Step 2, scientists hunt down the specific genes that made a mammoth. You know, the code for the thick fur, the big layers of fat, the tiny ears for staying warm, and then the final step. They take the DNA of its closest living cousin, the Asian elephant, which is an incredible 99.6% identical, and they use CRISPR to edit in those mammoth traits. And listen, this isn't just some science fair project. There's a real company, Colossal Biosciences, leading the charge. It was co-founded by one of the pioneers of this genetic technology, Dr. George Church, and they have raised over $225 million to make this happen. This is real. This is happening now. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all still sounds like it's 100 years away, right? Well, that's what a lot of people thought, until Colossal started delivering proof. Real, living, breathing proof that this technology works. Just look at what's already happened. In March of 2025, they created what's being called the mammoth mouse, a mouse that actually expresses 7 different mammoth genes for cold-resistant fur. And then, a month later, they announced the birth of 3 dire wolf pups, a species brought back from 72,000-year-old DNA. This isn't theory. This is happening. And milestones like that, they changed everything. Suddenly, the conversation in the scientific community wasn't about if this could be done anymore. It became a conversation about when. Which, of course, leads us to the biggest question of all, a question that's been waiting 4,000 years to be asked. We're so focused on the fact that we can do this, but have we stopped to ask if we should? Think about it. When an animal that important disappears, the world doesn't just pause. The ecosystem adapts. New animals fill the void. A new balance is found over thousands and thousands of years. Life moves on. So that's the core of the debate, right? On one side, you have the argument for ecological restoration. Bringing back the mammoth could heal an ancient wound on the planet. But the other side asks, are we about to cause a massive disruption? Are we going to throw a wrench into an ecosystem that's found its own rhythm? But here's where the story takes a wild turn, because the most compelling reason to bring back the woolly mammoth might have nothing to do with the mammoth itself. It might be about saving all of us. This could be our most unexpected weapon in the fight against climate change. To get it, you need to understand this number, 1.5 trillion tons. That is how much carbon in the form of CO2 and methane is trapped in the Arctic permafrost right now. It's basically a giant carbon time bomb. And as the world gets warmer, the permafrost is starting to thaw. The fuse is lit. So here's the big idea. It's called the permafrost hypothesis, and it's brilliant. See, winter snow acts like a big, fluffy blanket, insulating the ground and keeping it from getting really, truly cold. But mammoths? Big herds of them would stomp all over that snow, packing it down. That destroys the insulation, letting the freezing Arctic air penetrate deep into the ground, keeping the permafrost frozen solid, and keeping that 1.5 trillion tons of carbon locked safely away. This isn't some distant dream anymore. It's not a fantasy. Science fiction is officially on a schedule. This incredible, planet-altering project is running on a very real and very, very tight deadline. Colossal has gone on record with their target date. They plan to have the first mammoth-elephant hybrid calf born by 2028. That's not some far-off future, that's practically tomorrow. So that's where we stand, at a moment in history unlike any other. The science is there, the technology is working. So the question we all have to face isn't, can we do this anymore? The real question is, should we? And are we ready for what happens next?